So we've been here talking about Series C preferred stock, Series A financings, a high level, super simplified, oversimplified, honestly. Talked a little bit about what happens with your SACE, what happens with the term sheet, what happens in diligence. The next thing I want to tell you guys a little bit about is like what actually happens to close this thing. So there are a few steps that have to happen in order. Remember, you've been drafting, you've been agreeing to signature disclosure schedules and figuring out the investors' bylines and who's going to exercise any rights. And my dog just so ready to go see his dog friend. Anyway, so you got your investors trying to exercise their rights. You've been in conversation with them. You've been sharing drafts with maybe people who are not the lead investors so they can review as you go. So eventually, you're all going to agree on what the draft should look like. You're going to agree on a date. You're going to finalize the certificate of incorporation that creates this new class of stock that you're about to sell. Okay, and then after you've created this new class of stock that you are going to sell, you do this by filing a certificate of incorporation, by the way, with the new class of stock laid out. Try to do that in a day. Now the stock exists and you can sell it to people. So you execute stock purchase agreements. And by the way, usually what happens here is that the signature package gets set up in advance. They get shared with you in advance. You sign in advance. And we as the lawyers hold your signatures, quote, in escrow. Like they don't actually apply yet. Until all of the money is wired and the deal is closed, etc. So you might sign 3 days before you actually file the charter, or actually you're going to execute the stock purchase agreement per se. And the lawyers is very frequent that they will just like change the dates in the document. So it could be super alarming to non-lawyers, but we're working with the date that we agree everything should happen, not necessarily what was printed at a particular time. So, okay, you have signed a bunch of signature pages, you're waiting. During the week leading up to closing or so, you're getting everybody the last documents, getting their signature pages, getting their sign off on everything. This might include ancillary agreements like waiving your pro rata rights or something like that for some of your safe holders. And this is like quite an intensive process. Like it actually takes quite a lot of lawyer time. You want to make sure everybody's in there, and at present, until I build one, there is no system that I'm aware of that actually like organizes a lawyer's checklist for all of these things. It's always very variable. And usually lawyers will be building their own checklist because the deal is super customized. So that's what you're doing in the week leading up to closing. You're also probably, as the founder, having to send your wire instructions to a bunch of people directly and get on the phone and confirm them. Why? Because lawyers said a long time ago they don't want to be the ones handling your wire instructions, so they like, generally won't do it. So you got to do it, be ready. Takes a little bit of time. Again, a lot of things that founders are surprised they actually have to do during their own financing where they raise like a bunch of money. Yeah, you have to send your wire instructions and make sure that the money is going to the right place. So please keep that in mind. That will be anybody who's buying new stock, not necessarily anybody who's converting. And you'll have lots of ancillary agreements, possibly some cleanup board consents and things like that that you'll be signing at the same time. So big packet of paper going between tons of people at the same time. And that's true even if you only have a handful of investors from a prior round or a handful of investors in the new round. Just be ready. This can actually take days, and sometimes they confirm wire instructions 2 minutes for late, and like you have to change the whole packet with new dates and everything like that, and we email everybody again. So the more you can, again, be organized from the beginning, everything you want, when your lawyers ask you to do something for them, just jump on it as quickly as you can, recognizing it can be kind of annoying or feel really confusing. And if you don't know why you're being asked to do something, please ask. One last thing I want to say about this is like, I've seen Series A financings, not by us, by big law firms, where very literally there were about $40,000 worth of billing entries for changing the signature pages. That's crazy. But it's also not always crazy, I guess. It's crazy in the sort of default sense, but it's not crazy in the sense that if you actually have to update 55 people's signature block, like one letter at a time, it can take a lot of time. So it shouldn't be 40 grand, but that is a thing that actually takes lawyers a lot of time, and it really has to be right. So try to keep that one in mind. Okay, finally, part 3 of your closing. Like, what is a closing, really? It's signatures count, the money passes, and the deal is done. So on a big merger transaction, and oftentimes on like smaller investment transactions, you'll have a difference between the day you sign and the day you actually close. In other words, the transaction is done. In a super big merger, this could have conditions like you have to get regulatory approvals or something, and if those don't come in, the merger will not close. But usually in a Series Seed or lower level financing, you're going to close after you sign, or usually on the same day. But that's what closing is. You just signed everything and you got the money. That's it. You're done. Yay. What happens next? Coming soon.